All right, we'll go ahead and start the Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners meeting. We're here at the Truckee Meadows Community College on Friday, March 20th. We also have remote feeds to Las Vegas and Elko, which are working it out. With that, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Valentine, could you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Corby, can I get the roll call of the commissioners, please?
Chairman Wu.
Here.
Vice Chairman Wallace.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Lee. Here. Commissioner McGinch.
Commissioner McGinch will be an excused absence both today and tomorrow.
Over there.
Commissioner Morai.
Here.
Commissioner Valentine.
Here.
And Commissioner
Here.
If the County Advisory Board members represented in the audience would please.
I'm sorry, skip Commissioner Bliss.
No, we can't skip that.
I am here.
County Advisory Board members representing their counties can please stand and announce the county they're with, please. We'll start over here.
Rob Jacobson, Lyon County.
Sean Shea, Washoe County.
Mike Reese, Clark County.
Doug Martin, Carson City.
Corey Lytle, Lincoln.
Berkshire, Elko.
Brad Block, Washoe, or Wapak County.
Kathy Smith, Washoe County.
Glenn Bunch, Mineral.
Right, thank you all. We have a special presentation this morning, and if Mr. Rackley would join me up here at the podium, my place over there for the presentation. Trees.
Get out of jail.
You're not getting off that easy. Is this live? Can everyone hear me on the mic?
No.
No. How about now? How about now? Just gotta be close.
Yeah.
All right. All right, it's my pleasure to announce that Mr. Jim Rackley has been awarded the 2015 Wayne E. Kirch Nevada Wildlife Commission Award. The award is given annually to recipients who demonstrate significant results towards conservation, management, or enhancement of wildlife. An individual, NGO, club, or business can be nominated. With Mr. Rackley, I can speak with personal experience in telling you that you did all of the above. Just some statements that were part of his nomination packet. Mr. Rackley was nominated for the award by Nevada Muleys, a nonprofit organization dedicated to ensuring the conservation of mule deer and their habitats in Nevada. In 2014, Mr. Rackley had a very impressive record of time commitment to Nevada's wildlife. Rackley participated in the construction of numerous wildlife guzzler projects, mule deer and sage-grouse research projects, and most extensively fire restoration of ravaged mule deer habitat. As part of his work, Mr. Rackley has dedicated extensive efforts to this restoration, which resulted in thousands of acres of rangeland in Humboldt and Pershing County and Elko County. Mr. Rackley is described by his peers as a proven leader with an ability to guide and lead volunteers, many of whom follow his lead for the myriad of projects that he's involved with. Rackley has donated hundreds, perhaps thousands of personal hours and drives thousands of miles in order to participate and perform volunteer service for the betterment of Nevada's wildlife. He has paid for supplies, driven his own personal vehicles, provided equipment out of his own pocket. According to Mark Evans, Muleys Vice President, Jim's leadership over the years has been instrumental in bringing together the Northern Nevada community in support of our mule deer conservation mission. Just a couple personal words. He may not look like it, but he's one hell of a salesman. Every time I'm in Elko, I run into Jim or someone that knows Jim. He's roped me into coming up for various banquets, a lot of volunteer projects, and he is a proven leader. And I'll tell you what, on those volunteer projects, one of his secret weapons is providing his volunteer crew with some of the best lunches you'll ever find in the middle of nowhere. So with that, I'd like to congratulate Jim. I'm glad he's been able to make the drive up from Winnemucca today. and thank him for all his service because he truly is part of the team that has improved Nevada's wildlife resources over the years. And Mr. Ackley, you're welcome to say a few words if you'd like.
Can I?
Absolutely.
I don't know if I need the microphone. I'm not very good with them. I'll try it. If I could thank a couple of people here. One of them is sitting in the audience. Ed Partee has been instrumental in just about everything we do in Humboldt County, in northern Nevada, as far as we can reach with Trucker Foundation and Nevada Muleys. Been with Ed since he moved to Winnemucca on the game board and with those two organizations, and he's been nothing but a great supporter. And then the County Advisory Board, who I know isn't here today, they were here yesterday, they're just busy. So I'd really like to thank those folks, and of course, my wife that puts up with all this. So that's it. I really appreciate it. This award means a lot to me. I never got to meet Wayne. I think he passed away before I got on the game board. But I do know his daughter, and so it means quite a bit to me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, I appreciate that, and thank you for everyone's acknowledgement, Mr. Rack. We'll move to agenda item number 2, approval of agenda. For possible action, the commission will review the agenda and may take action to approve the agenda. The commission may remove items from the agenda, continue items for consideration, or take items out of order. Any discussion on approval of the agenda? Seeing none, is there any public comment on approval of the agenda as this is an action item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board and entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented today.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We'll move to agenda item number 3, member items, announcements, and correspondence, informational. Commission members may present urgent items. No action may be taken by the commission. Any item requiring commission action may be scheduled on a future commission agenda. The commission will review and may discuss correspondence sent or received by the commission since the last regular meeting and may provide copies for the exhibit file. Correspondence sent or received by the secretary will also be discussed. Are there any commissioners with correspondence or member items? Okay. Seeing none, I have a couple. Obviously, we've received a lot of correspondence on item number 7, and we can discuss that more when we get to it. I did receive an annual report from the Community Foundation of Western Nevada in regards to the Dream Tag program, and I'll provide that to the secretary for an exhibit on our file. Any other commission items? Director Wasley, any items from you?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Seeing none, we'll move to agenda item number 4, County Advisory Boards to manage wildlife member items. The CAB members may present emergent items. No action may be taken by the commission. Any item requiring commission action will be scheduled on a future commission agenda. County Advisory Boards, any items from you? See a couple. Come on up to the podium, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Doug Martin, Carson City Wildlife Advisory Board for the record. An emerging item that you may want to pay attention to is the issue of urban deer populations and increases. Carson City CAB heard about this a month and a half ago, and we've created a citizen and county and NDOW group to start looking into it. And let me just read into the record just a brief little statement here. Urban deer, the real facts. Urban deer are here to stay in Carson City. They come because there is food, water, cover, and shelter. They bring with them their wildness, their parasites, their predators, and their appetites. The novelty of them showing up in city limits will wear off soon after they start eating the landscape, after protective does attack a dog or two, and hopefully not a child. after a few get hit by vehicles, and after their predators, mountain lions and coyotes, eat a few pets in the process. This year of extended drought, we can expect to see more of them. What we can do, we can learn to respect them, not feed them, teach our children not to approach them, and importantly, remember they are wild animals. I bring this up as an emerging item because Carson City over the last 3 years has seen a huge increase in urban deer. And it is just part of the urban wildlife encroachment into our urban area. And I know that Reno has it, I know that Genoa has it, and I'm sure elsewhere has it. So I want to thank the department for sending people to our meetings, but I think the commission should be aware of this urban wildlife encroachment. Thank you very much. Any questions?
I think there's questions. Thank you, Mr. Martin. I appreciate the county taking the local initiative to get involved and set up that working group. So thank you for any role you or your county advisory board played with that. I think there was a couple other county advisory board items. Come on up, Mike.
For the record, Mike Reese, Clark County Cab. Tuesday night we had our cab meeting and we had a very lively discussion on feral cats in Clark County. It's not on the agenda item here, but what came of our discussions with that, we found out that there's probably between 200 and 400,000 feral cats in Las Vegas Valley alone. While the wildlife department is not in the business of dogs and cats and stuff like that, what was also noticed was that there's 900 to 1,000 caretakers that are in charge of these feral cats. There's been lots of reports of coyotes coming into the valley and carrying off cats. We're identifying that as a food source for coyotes as part of the Department of Wildlife. And the end result of our meeting was we have all the statutes of the NRS. We believe that it's not stated in here for the catch and release of cats. Although we want to go on the record of we approve of the program that they're doing to try to get rid of the feral cats. We're not trying to stop that. What we're trying to do is find out the legality of what they're doing and the possible harm that it's doing to the wildlife and the amount of coyotes that are now into Las Vegas. I'm gonna return these in. We've got the statutes highlighted on there. We would like to see the DAG or the DA take a look at this and look at the validity of the statute as it pertains to the wildlife. Thank you.
Mr. Reese. Other county advisory boards? Mr. Bunch, come on up.
Glenn Bunch, Mineral County. In the upcoming hunt book or whatever we're gonna put out, we need to, or maybe with the tag process, be sure to highlight the fact that there's no hunting with drones. I know that it's out there, that we can't do it, but this past year, I heard of a sheep hunt in eastern Nevada that they filmed the entire hunt with a drone. And the guide that took the guy out anticipated hunting a week, and they got their sheep on the first day. And so when they were telling me that, I just walked away. You know, the thing about it is, this guide should have known we can't hunt with a drone. So we need to somehow or other get the word out. Can't do that. Okay? Thank you.
Other county advisory board items? Seeing none in Reno, I don't see any CAB members in Vegas. Are there any CAB members in Elko? Seeing none, we'll close agenda item 4 and move to agenda item 5, approval of minutes for possible action. Commission minutes from February 6th and 7th, 2015 meeting will be discussed and may be approved. Any comments on the February 6th or 7th meeting minutes? Seeing no comments or discussion by the board, this is an action item. Any public comment on the minutes? I'm seeing Vegas shake their head no. Elko? Okay, hearing none, I'll bring it back to the board. If there's no further discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to approve the minutes as presented.
Second it.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the February 6 and 7, 2015 meeting as presented. Any discussion or question on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously with Commissioner McNinch absent. We'll move to agenda item number 6. And this is a bear video documentary. Environmental Health Specialist Supervisor Jim English from Washoe County Health District. This is an informational item. A short documentary, Urban Bears Keeping Nevada's Bears Wild, funded by Washoe County Health District and produced by 9 Caribou Production LLC, will be screened. The film focuses on reducing urban bear interactions by removing attractants or unsecured garbage. Ms. Jolly.
Hi, I'm Kim Jolly with NDOW for the record, and I'm just here, and I wanted to introduce Jim English, the Environmental Health Specialist Supervisor with Washoe County Health District, that we worked together on this project, as well as the Western Region staff and the Kane Western Region staff, and I'll let him take it from here.
For the record, Jim English, Washoe County Health District Environmental Health Services Supervisor for the Waste Management Program. A little over a year ago, NDOW came and approached our agency regarding solid waste and garbage trash issues within the Washoe County range, and as it pertains to bears, to try to keep them wild. We do have regulations that prohibit certain storage, how garbage has to be stored, how trash has to be stored. We are an educational agency and an enforcement agency, so the best way we saw that we could help NDOW and the kitty with keeping bears outside of the residences and kind of in their own habitat was to produce a documentary regarding some of the issues with bears when they start learning about how easy it is to access garbage and trash within the community. NDOW, as my understanding, had this as an idea, but funding was part of an issue, and in my program as the Solid Waste Management Authority for Washoe County, I did have funding, so we went ahead and developed this film. We tried to keep it as general as possible, so it's just not a garbage trash issue, so they could be used wide ranging. We are the owner of the DVD, but we printed the first 1,000. We've already distributed over 150. We will be working with NDOW on a distribution plan. It can be used statewide. We're not controlling how it's used, just that we get it out there. So with that, we can show it. It's only about 22 minutes long.
Okay, before we open up the video, are there any questions of Mr. English? I'd just like to say that I really appreciate Washoe County and their efforts and being a partner with the Department of Wildlife on something that's obviously a growing issue here in this part of the state. So thank you for all you did and your staff. Please relay that message to them.
All right, thank you. And we can update it as years go on. We plan to keep this as a living video, and we will produce more videos. We just need to get it out there now. So I'm making the rounds at that point in time.
Great, thank you. We'll take a couple minutes to flip over to the other side of the table so that everyone can watch the video, and I'll turn it over to our AV folks. It's coming.
There's a countdown in effect.
As fall sets in northern Nevada, black bears are making a desperate attempt to prepare for the coming winter months by stocking up on calories. They must pile on enough pounds to make it through hibernation. But finding a food source is proving to be a problem both for them and humans.
Garbage is a really good resource from a physiological perspective. And the reason for that is because it's predictable in space and time. Garbage cans are set out the same day of the week, week after week. And even if a bear goes into a garbage can or dumpster, all of those calories the next week is good fun.
With bears seeking food in urban areas, human-bear conflicts are on an increase, and if left unchecked, they could lead to dangerous encounters.
Then all of a sudden, within a blink, she was just running towards us like a freight train.
And physically broke through the middle of the door and crawled through the door.
Regardless of how habituated they may be to people, they're still wild animals, and they're potentially dangerous. When you look at places in Washoe County, and some of these neighborhoods that are at the urban wildland interface, 20 or 30 years ago, those areas supported very few bears. There were a few berry patches, maybe some pine nuts, a perennial stream or two that the bears would take advantage of. Now, 20 or 30 years later, you have hundreds of homes, basically thousands of fruit trees that have all matured over the last 20 to 30 years, providing lots of food. You have garbage that's placed out on a very reliable time scale, and occasional koi ponds and urban ponds providing the water source. Those neighborhoods now provide better habitat than what the bears can find typically up in these wildland areas. More food, more water, plenty of cover, what you want bears.
Bears are like living garbage disposals. They just eat about anything. And the reason they do that is because physiologically in the fall they have to put on a lot of weight and body mass, because when they go into their dens for the winter, they can lose up to 30% of their body mass. And so in the fall, bears will be consuming up to 25 to 30,000 calories per day. To put that in perspective, an adult human male on average may eat 2,000 to 3,000 calories. So they're really in a position physiologically where they have to eat a lot of calories.
Between 1987 and 2012, the average number of bear complaints rose tenfold, from a mere 20 complaints per year, average between 1987 and 1991, to 282 between 2008 and 2012. And 77% of all those complaints fall within Washoe County. With bears frequenting urban neighborhoods on a more regular basis, action has to be taken to prevent these hungry mammals from getting too comfortable and becoming human habituated. Carl Lackey, a bear biologist with the Nevada Department of Wildlife, is tasked with the job of teaching these garbage-seeking bears a lesson that will keep them and the local residents safe.
We've opted to do the on-site release with weather conditioning, meaning we release the bears right where we catch them or very close to it, within that bear's home range, typically, and then subject the bear to a bad experience around humans, the aversive condition. We shoot at it with 12-gauge rubber bullets, rubber buckshot, beanbag rounds, and then chase it out to the bear, whose job is to harass and haze that bear, hopefully at the tree. And it's all designed to modify the behavior of really bold bears. It's not going to make a bear quit going after human sources of food. And 9 times out of 10, it's not going to make a bear leave its home range or leave a certain area. But what we have noticed is it will make bears less bold around people. They become more nocturnal, which is what they should be doing in urban situations. And when they see people, they're running the other direction.
Stopping these bears' urban foraging habits is essential to prevent the more serious scenario of a house break-in, which is inevitable once they've accustomed themselves to this learned behavior. And once a bear gets in your house, it will stop at nothing to find what it came for.
Well, when the bear broke in after we found the place when we came back here, our front door had a hole in it. It actually put a hole through the speakeasy opening, and it crawled through the top of the door, right through the middle of it. We figured the bear was in the house for approximately 3 days or so, living inside the house. It went through the little cabinets here in the kitchen, spread condiments all over the floor. Not necessarily food, but ketchup, mustard, seasoning, flour, those kind of things, not your traditional food. Made a mess of the entire house.
left the refrigerator wide open. It was continuously running, burned up the refrigerator. It was just a mess everywhere, all over the carpet. Did approximately $10,000 in damage. Had to replace all the carpet in the house, which had just been replaced about 6 months prior to that, so we had to replace it again. You come to realize that you don't necessarily need a robber or a thief to break into your house. In essence, this is a different kind of robber or a different kind of thief. You know, but yeah, feeling violated. I had a big hole in my door. You know, it was going into winter, and it just, yeah, it was a huge shock, and we had a tremendous mess to clean up. And it was very frustrating, especially when we just had the house remodeled.
I got a text message from my neighbor telling me that he thought there was a bear that broke in, and I kind of shrugged it off, and then I got home at about 8 at night, and came home and my house was in ruins. Every single bit of food that was anywhere, no matter how high or low or behind what, was eaten. It even got into my salad dressing, mustard, ketchup, ate all of that, and you could see like a trail of mustard, and it led to my bedroom, and just kind of all over the place. It attacked the door handle and somehow unlocked it, and then about 3 days later, after the initial break-in, I woke up the next morning and I found my screen door just laying on the ground, where it must have had a paw here and just ripped it off, thinking that it was going to get inside the house somehow, and it completely just destroyed it. The car thing was a week later. When you think everything's done, I got another text from my neighbor, and he's like, "Hey man, I don't know how to tell you this, but I think a bear broke into your car." And again, you think, well, maybe it's just a scratch or something. And my driver's side window is completely shattered. There's glass everywhere in the car, everywhere outside. And the car smelled really bad. And there was mud covered everywhere, like the seats. Again, it's just kind of like that sense of security, like not even my car's safe. The only thing I can think of is I had some gum and I had some pistachios, but I mean, you don't think that those can really put off a big smell, but maybe just anything, they're so desperate that anything that resembles food they're after, so it's just kind of one of those things. Just need to make sure to not keep trash and food in my car. Definitely don't want it to happen again.
Well, we're lucky enough to live up here where there is a lot of wildlife, actually. And the bears come around, it's apple season, and they seem to know when the apples are going to be ready. And so she has been here. I've never seen one in the day, ever. We see bear poop all around, so we know they've been here. And we're always careful for that reason. But today, she's been here since early morning with her 3 little cubs. And so I told my daughter earlier not to go out to the car without letting me know. So she and I opened the back gate, and the bear was down on the ground with her cubs. And this is a distance from that gate. But she, all of a sudden, her posture changed. And then she charged us. And when that happens, it's a frightening situation because she moves like a train. She's so fast. But then she stopped, and we ran into the back immediately and closed the door because you just don't want to mess around with them. She's just here protecting her babies, and I don't want anything bad to ever happen to them. But being around people is not good for them.
When bears first learn of the solid waste that's available to them in our neighborhoods, they're still pretty wary of humans and take off at the first sight of us. But as time goes by and they find garbage cans an easy source of calories, they scout out other parts of your home. This leads to them becoming far more bold and therefore more dangerous. Once a bear has become bold
tells us if the damage or the break-ins continue, then we know that that was the wrong bear. It takes a week or two to get back home. But if the problems cease, and then that tagged bear shows up 2 or 3 weeks later and the problems continue, then we know who the culprit is and we can deal with it.
Just over the ridge, or on the side. We began the research on bears in western Nevada, specifically in the Lake Tahoe Basin and western part of the Great Basin, back in the late 1990s. And it was a collaborative effort between myself, when I was at the University of Nevada, Reno, and the Nevada Department of Wildlife. And our goals really were just to understand what was going on with the bear population. What we heard from a lot of people that lived in the Tahoe Basin, for example, is that I've lived here for 30 years, I've never seen a bear. The last 3 years, I've seen 6 of them. Is the bear population increasing? And we didn't know if it was an increase in the bear population or if it was a redistribution of the population due to anthropogenic foods, namely in the form of garbage. And so we were really interested in knowing what was happening to the bear population. So there were some basic bear ecology questions, but we also wanted to understand what the drivers and the mechanisms were for human-bear conflicts and how to mitigate those conflicts. Our data over the course of this research shown that bears and garbage are actually having benefits from a physiological perspective. They're heavier on average than the wildland counterparts. Sometimes they'll have smaller home ranges. And for females, they actually, in some cases, are giving birth to more cubs. Unfortunately, those females down in these urban areas lose their cubs at a high level because, namely, collisions with vehicles. The other thing that our data has demonstrated is that these urban areas are kind of attractive cities, which means that because of the garbage in their bears are attracted to them, but they have higher mortality rates than birth rates, which is the definition of the sink. And so there are areas where you can lose individuals from the population. Fortunately for us in the Tahoe Basin, and specifically on the Nevada side, these urban and ex-urban sprawl areas only cover about 7% of the landscape. So we have an opportunity to still have a growing bear population, despite the fact that some of these urban areas can be these attractive sites.
So one of the first improvements we did before we electrified the house was instead install a metal bear box or garbage container to minimize the amount of garbage that was distributed all over the area. Our neighbors over the years have added these. Are great help, keep the area clean, keep the bears away. It's probably one of the most best improvements you can do right off the get-go. So this particular unit has a key that comes with it. It's mounted on the side here. You need the key to open this. And this unit holds 2 garbage cans. They have 2 unit and 1 unit systems. But as you can see, once it's locked up, it's very difficult to get into, and we've never had a break-in or had any issues after we installed this. This is the front door that was broken into previously that we've had to replace. We've installed the system right on the front of the door. We've also installed a system on the back of the deck, so they don't have access to the back of the deck or cannot enter through the back door. Since we've done all the bear proofing, we've had very minimal encounters with the bears. There's been less signs. They are in the area. They haven't gone away, but we have not had the house broken into or any activity around the outside of the house like we had previously to installing our system.
This homeowner called me after having several break-ins at their property, and what we did at the home was set up a safe but effective electrical deterrent at the house that effectively keeps the bears away from the home and keeps the house safe and gives the homeowner a peace of mind. So one of the products that I've created is this electric bear mat. It sits in front of the doorway and effectively protects the doors from bears entering the house. It's a very user-friendly system on the home. There's no wires to remove. People turn the controller off and just walk into the house. But it's also very effective as well. The bear can't touch the door without stepping on the mat. But we use other products as well on the house. Every door, every window needs a different option. One of our options here is what we call the electric wires. It just protects the lower portion of the window, so when the bear reaches up to break the window, it gets a safe but effective shot. One more option for homeowners is the electric removable wires. It's a very simple product to use. When they show up to the house, they turn the system off, and they simply unhook the wires and put them away while they're at the property. When they're ready to leave and they want to secure the home again, they simply stretch the wires across the door, reattaching them, and go turn the system on, and it's okay to leave the house. Bears can cause devastating damage to your home. Not only will they break your windows, break your doors, rip holes through your siding, but they can completely trash the inside of the house. I've seen gas stoves turned on from the bears, sinks flooded and clogged, flooding the homes, carpets destroyed, food and trash all over the house, cabinets ripped out of the wall, refrigerators knocked over. We don't want a bear in the house. We want to do everything we can to deter that bear and keep your property safe and secure.
The biggest mistake to make when living in bear country is to think that it will never happen to you. So here are a few tips that cost nothing to do to keep a bear from your door. Keep your property clean. Don't leave garbage lying around and easily accessible. If you live or are vacationing in an apartment complex or condominium, don't leave garbage bags outside your door. Instead, place them immediately in one of the provided garbage containers. And remember to always lock the doors and latches on bear-proof dumpsters and cans. Don't place garbage cans out before the morning of pickup. This just trains the bears to arrive the night before garbage day. Place any highly pungent and perishable scraps like chicken and turkey carcasses in a plastic bag and freeze them until garbage day. This will prevent any attractive odors from lingering around your house and garbage can. Minimize animal feeds around your home. Keep pet bowls clean and clear up any spilt food. If feeding the birds, use temporary feeders that can be removed after use. And store horse grain and chicken feeds in lockable metal containers. Pick up fallen fruit as regularly as possible. Rotting fruit on the ground is a VIP invitation to a bear. Clean your barbecue straight after using it and keep pungent fire starters locked away. Remove all foods, including chewing gum, from your vehicle. A bear will even break into a car for an old candy wrapper, so remove all wrappers, old beverage containers, and garbage too. Don't make it easy for them. Close and secure all your doors and windows when leaving your house. Educate and encourage your neighbours to take the same steps. The more households in your neighbourhood that are bear aware will keep the bears from your door. But to really deter a bear and get it to move on, there are a few things you can do to bear-proof and have peace of mind. Only store garbage in a bear-resistant or bear-proof container. This will stop the bear from gaining any type of reward when attempting to open it. Install an electric fence around your fruit trees and beehives. This can be of the permanent or removable type, but without it, the bears will continue to return for the delicious fruit and honey. Add extra bolts to your doors to remove any movement when a bear pushes on it. If it feels secure, they're more likely to move on. And avoid external doors with weak points of entry like doggy doors and glass panes. Protecting your home with a simple electric system will stop the bears from thinking it's accessible and will pay for itself over and over by preventing a break-in. All of these improvements will deter a bear from your property, but the simplest things are often the best deterrents. When leaving your home for long periods, remove all foods, condiments, spices and oils, anything that a bear will find attractive. Remember, a bear's sense of smell is possibly the strongest in the animal kingdom, about 7 times stronger than that of a bloodhound. They rely on this keen sense of smell for everything from locating mates, detecting danger, identifying cubs, and finding food. If you can't smell it, it doesn't mean that a bear can't. And if there's the faintest odor of something a bear thinks is edible coming from your home, they will break in to find it. Nearly all house break-ins are due to food items in the home, even when the homeowner was convinced they'd removed all attractants. Removing all these attractive items while you're away for the season is probably the simplest thing you can do to avoid this devastating scene when you arrive home.
So in a place like Washoe County, I think there's a lot of opportunity to have successful coexistence of bears and people and reduction in conflicts. I don't think we'll ever completely eliminate the conflicts out there, just because if you have a neighborhood, for example, and 90% of the homes are compliant in trying to reduce conflicts by making their garbage unavailable to bears, even a small percentage of the population, and it could be accidental and non-intentional, if you have those food resources available, you can still end up with a bear down into those urban areas. And so we'll probably never completely get rid of the conflict, but I think we can, as communities, work together to get those conflict levels down to a socially acceptable level.
Bear resistant trash cans cost anywhere from a couple $100 to $1,000 or $1,500. And I just tell people, what's your safety worth? The safety of your kids. You have bears coming into your neighborhoods, they're there for a reason. One bear in the neighborhood within town is an anomaly. But when you have several bears on a consistent basis in these neighborhoods that are at the urban wildland interface, we cannot keep those bears out of those neighborhoods. They're there for a reason. And that's the attractants, the end sources of food.
To file a complaint regarding a garbage storage issue in your neighborhood, please call the Washoe County Health District hotline on 775-328-2436. That's 775-328-2436. Or to report a bear issue in your home, please call the Nevada Department of Wildlife hotline on 775-688-2327. That's 775-688-2327. And remember, if Washoe County Health District receives 2 or more valid complaints in a 12-month period regarding animals accessing your garbage due to improper storage, you will be required to install an approved animal-resistant container at your own expense.
Trying to turn it off.
Right, that concludes the video. Mr. English, I see you've come back up. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Hopefully you find this useful. You know, it's hard to talk about. We can harp on bears and garbage and all that. So that's the reason we went the direction we did. You can see at the very end, there's the push on how to correct issues, because the message we're trying to get out is if you store your solid waste properly in the beginning, it's a lot cheaper than going to some of those bear-proofing tasks inside your house, like electric fencing or electric fence. But we do plan on getting this word out, and we fully are aware of the problem in our area. And as soon as we get a complaint, we're working very closely with the Nevada Division of Wildlife to address those properties that are in question. And currently, right now, the Liz and Stelter Junior Street does sell the animal-proof, bear-proof containers, because we have been requiring quite a few residents over the last 2 years. Unless anyone has any questions for me.
Could I just ask you what
what the cost was to produce that, or was it all done in-house?
No, we did not do any of it in-house, actually. Nine Caribou Productions, which I believe the Nevada Division of Wildlife has used for some of our work, was the one we used. We did a sole source, and I believe it was right around $25,000 with 1,000 DVDs. And I have budgeted money for each fiscal year to go forward and buy more DVDs as we go now. We do plan to hit the real estate companies pretty hard this spring to try to get them in some of the known rental places. And we're also working with some of the resort properties to run it on their resort television stations to just try to get the word out. That's really our target right now, is the homes in the forest interface and the resort companies around here.
Additional commission comment or question? Okay, seeing none, thanks again, and again, I appreciate the department and Washoe County's efforts to create the production. Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you. All right, with that, we'll move to agenda item number 7, petition Don Moldy and Fred Volz for possible action. Don Moldy and Fred Volz have submitted a petition to the commission requesting that the commission take action to ban kinetic killing contests in Nevada. The commission may accept the petition and initiate regulatory action or deny the petition. Before we get started, just a couple comments in regards to ground rules. I know there's a lot of folks here today to discuss this. The two actions that the commission can take at this point is to accept the petition, which would initiate regulatory change going forward. That does not mean the regulation would be adopted. It just means that we would consider it going forward, or we could deny the petition and no regulatory action would be initiated at this time. The process that we'll use today, I'll have Mr. Moldy and Mr. Volz, and I understand there may be one more individual to present the petition and the substance of the petition. I'll open it up to the commission for any questions at that time. When they're done presenting, the commission will have any opportunity to discuss the action. I'll take it out to public comment at that point. Everyone is welcome to make public comment, and I'm just going to read directly from our agenda to make sure everyone's clear on the ground rules. Public comment will be taken on every action item, including this, after discussion but before action. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per person. The chair in his discretion may allow persons representing groups to speak for up to 6 minutes. So when you come up to the microphone, please state your name and state if you're an official representative of any organization. I would ask that we don't have multiple folks representing the same organization. If you have one spokesperson, that person can have the 6 minutes. People may not allocate unused time to other speakers. The persons are invited to submit written comments on items to attend or make comment during the meeting and are asked to complete a speaker card and present it to the recording secretary. The speaker cards are the yellow cards, and basically what those are for is so that our recording secretary has everyone's names and addresses. There was some concern or some question on whether or not you should check the yes or no box. Again, when you come up to state your position, what you'll be asking us to do is either accept or deny the petition. And again, accepting the petition would initiate regulatory action. Denying the petition would essentially not initiate anything. Forum restrictions and orderly business. The viewpoint of a speaker will not be restricted, but reasonable restrictions may be imposed upon time, place, and manner of speech. I know this is an emotional issue. I know a lot of people have strong feelings about this on both sides. What I'm asking is that you respect this board, and most importantly, that you respect everyone in this room. I have no problem if you give an impassioned speech, but I would ask that there be no personal attacks or anything of that nature. That goes for the audience as well. It's not a sporting event. Please respect everyone that's at the microphone. I would ask that there not be cheering or jeering of any sort. If there is, I may stop the meeting and will ask you to stop that activity. So bottom line, let's be respectful and civil to everyone. That's my expectation. At that point, I think the ground rules have been laid. Mr. Moldy, please present your petition.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Don Moldy, Reno. Great video, by the way. He's complimented the producer. The way we'll proceed today is that Fred Volz will lead off with some introductory comments. Stuart White, who's a retired Reno attorney, will talk about the NRS, NAC issues as he sees them. And I'll finish up with a brief commentary about why I think coyote killing contests are different from all other sporting events. That's the way we proceed.
Good morning. For the record, Fred Volz. Last December, a coyote killing contest occurred in the North Valleys area of Reno with no reaction or subsequent limitations imposed by the Wildlife Commission. This inaction is the genesis of today's petition. Other coyote killing contests around the state have been similarly ignored by the Commission. Threats to public safety, damage to wildlands and habitat by people racing around attempting to maximize the number of coyotes killed, and an utter disregard for living creatures that play an integral role in the interspecies food chain are some of the negative outcomes of such contests. Unrestrained, unregulated killing for kicks does not suggest wise public policy nor reflect appropriate oversight by the Wildlife Commission. We would expect such behavior at World War II concentration camps or when neighborhood street gang activity kills humans for vengeance.
Mr. Bolts, please stick to the petition.
I'm sticking to the petition. I'm giving you an analogy, Chairman.
As long as it stays respectful, please.
It is respectful, and it's making a historical analogy to what's going on today with coyotes. Or when neighborhood street gang activity kills humans for vengeance, money, drugs, and power, but not toward wildlife held in trust for the public's benefit. The National Coalition Against Domestic Violence joined forces with the American Humane Society to study the links between animal abuse and domestic violence. Among their findings, 71% of pet-owning women entering women's shelters reported that their batterer had injured, maimed, killed, or threatened family pets for revenge or to psychologically control victims. 32% reported their children had hurt or killed animals. Abusers kill, harm, or threaten children's pets to coerce them into sexual abuse or to force them to remain silent about abuse. Disturbed children kill or harm animals to emulate the parent's conduct, to prevent the abuser from killing the pet, or to take out their aggressions on another victim. Sanctioning wildlife killing contests with no purpose but bloodlust and momentary amusement cheapens the value of life and creates a gateway to other violent acts against animals and people. A coyote killing contest is nothing more than violent slaughter of defenseless creatures where the trigger pullers seek illusory glory, not protein. People who claim to follow the North American model of wildlife conservation and science-based management of wildlife in the public interest have no rationale for the cold-blooded, indiscriminate slaughter of coyotes in contests. They can't even legitimately claim they are protecting property or people. Each commissioner's petition package contains photographic proof of a literal mountain of coyote carcasses piled by the side of a road after a coyote killing contest. Would this happen with any other wildlife species subject to a wildlife killing contest where express limits on the numbers killed apply? In the Commission's Wildlife Damage Control Committee meeting yesterday, the repeated mantra was kill, kill, kill. The proposed allocation of resources reflected an overwhelming bias toward funding wildlife killing projects. The clear theme, if we don't understand it and can't otherwise control it easily, let's kill it. Human negligence toward providing supplemental coyote food sources and human denial of coyote biological truths have heightened coyote presence. Why isn't this state widely employing successful, non-lethal predator control methods toward coyotes that have worked elsewhere, if indeed they are a recurring problem? As Mark Twain wrote in his novel Pudd'nhead Wilson, few things are harder to put up with than the annoyance of a good example, unquote. This state has that example in the regressive practice of coyote killing contests without any legitimate public policy or science-based wildlife management purpose. The Commission needs to constructively apply its regulatory powers to immediately ban coyote killing contests in this state. Thank you.
Okay, before you leave, because I understand you're going to have a few folks, are there any questions for Mr. Volz before he leaves the podium?
Chairman, I have a few questions.
Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Bowles, thank you for being here today. During your comments, you referred to wildlife killing contests But as I understand the petition, you want to limit it to coyote contests, is that correct?
The nature of the petition today speaks to coyote killing only.
If we were to adopt a regulation that puts some sort of bag limit on a coyote contest, would that be acceptable to the petitioner?
I'll speak personally at this point as a co-petitioner. Short answer is no. If there's no science to back up the reason behind the killing, then there shouldn't be the killing.
Now, you're not asking us to reclassify the coyote from unprotected animal to some other classification, are you?
In a perfect world, I would, but given the nature of this commission, I would say no. That's an unrealistic expectation.
Now, you make reference to what the California Fish and Game Commission did, adopting you cite Title 14 of their Administrative Code, Section 465. But that code section is referred to fur bearers. That's not what we're talking about here, nor was that what the California Commission was talking about there. Because both in California and Nevada, the coyote is not considered a fur bearer. So when I look at the petition, you would want something similar to that regulation. So would I strike fur bearer and insert coyote?
I think you could reasonably do that.
Well, it's your petition, sir. I'm asking what you would like.
Well, you're asking me. I'm saying it's a reasonable expectation, yes.
So we obviously strike pursuant to Fish and Game Code Section 203, and then what the proposal would be it is unlawful to offer any prize or other inducement as a reward for the taking of coyotes in an individual contest, tournament, or derby.
I think that's fair. Yes.
But that would in no way prohibit people from getting together under Nevada law and hunting coyotes.
And there's no limitation on that as things stand presently.
So I guess my question is, in adopting this regulation, I want to know where does lawful activity cross over into what you view as unlawful? And what I mean by that is under current Nevada law, 5 individuals can get together, go out on any day of the year and hunt coyotes, and there's no limit on the take. When do you suggest that lawful activity would become unlawful under your proposed regulation?
The point at which there is a contest, there are prizes, there is publicity, and there's the intent to gather a large group of people to do this in an unsafe, hazardous way to the public, which is what the coyote contest consisted of last December.
What would you define as a large group?
If there's going to be prize money offered, if it's going to be generally advertised, that's a very different construct than 5 individuals choosing to get together and go out and do what they're going to do with wildlife.
I asked what was a large group. Is it more than 10, more than?
I'll use your definition of 5. I think that's a fair number. I'll defer to Dr. Molden if he has another perspective on that, since he's been involved even longer than I have in this issue.
So it would have to be more than 5 people involved. There'd have to be some sort of publicity involved and prizes for participation, prizes for... I'm just trying to understand what it is that you want us to ban.
Well, let's put it this way. All 3 of those criteria are reasonable, and I would advocate for them. The ultimate decision has to come back to what public purpose is served, and that should be in the statute or any regulations that come out of this commission. What public purpose is served by having people going out and killing without any scientific justification any animal in a large number? And that seems to be the approach not only the Fish and Wildlife Services has taken, the commission has taken, and the organizers of these contests. That is flying in the face of everything the commission represents, supposedly science-based work in managing the public's wildlife.
Additional comments or questions for Mr. Bolts? Seeing none. next individual please come up and state your name for the record?
My name is Stuart White, retired attorney here from Reno. I'm just going to present to you our view of the applicable NRS laws and regulations applicable to our petition. The one primary one, or one of the primary ones, is in NRS 501.100, which I'm sure all of you probably are familiar with all these. I'm going to tell you that it's wildlife in this state, not domesticated, and in its natural habitat, is part of the natural resources belonging to the people of the state of Nevada. And a lot of people of the state of Nevada desire this type of petition to be accepted. Section 2 of the same statute, the preservation and protection of wildlife within the state contribute immeasurably to the aesthetic, recreational, and economic aspects of these natural resources. NRS 501.105 states the commission shall establish and adopt regulations necessary to the preservation and protection of wildlife, which is, of course, the coyote is one of the wildlife. And that's not just broad policies, that's establish and adopt regulations. NRS 501.181, and I'm just going to take about 2 minutes here. It says the commission shall establish broad policies, not just regulations, for the protection of wildlife in this state. Subsection 3 says it shall establish policies for areas of interest, including for unprotected mammals, which is the coyote, and that it shall establish broad policies for the control of wildlife depredation. Now, I know most of you think of wildlife depredation as a coyote attacking a ewe or a calf, doing it for food. But to us, wildlife depredation is the act of hunting coyotes in these contests. The contestants are the predators. Subsection 4 of the same one says establish regulations necessary to carry out the provisions of this title, including the manner and means of taking wildlife. That's pretty much it. I think it gives you a lot of power to establish this regulation. I think it shows you have the authority to stop these killing contests by adopting regulations, and what you do. To me, it's kind of like when you think about what happens during these contests and the total waste of our wildlife that we all own. It's kind of like, in fact, none of you are old enough perhaps to remember, but in the 50s, when Joseph McCarthy was finding communists everywhere and having all those hearings, that one of his final witnesses, Joseph Welch, asked him, finally, sir, have you no sense of decency? And this is a decent thing to do. Thank you very much.
Before you leave, your name was Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Wyatt? Okay.
I guess I do have a question. I don't want to be the only one. Mr. Wyatt, we are certainly, though, operating under a different statutory construct in California.
That's correct.
And my understanding is I received a lot of correspondence, as the other commissioners did, urging us to follow the lead of the California Fish and Game Commission. But my understanding is what happened in California is that the California legislature, when it adopted California Fish and Game Code Section 203, it banned all contests, tournaments, or derbies involving wildlife. And that the only thing the California Fish and Game Code did when it adopted its recent regulations with respect to fur bearers and non-game mammals was to clarify what the California legislature had already done. Is that your understanding?
No, that's not particularly my understanding. First of all, I want to specifically state that had California done nothing, or New Mexico done nothing, or any other state done anything. This is Nevada. I don't know how many times in court proceedings I've heard judges say, well, like, this is Nevada law. Let me have some Nevada law on this subject, because it is Nevada, and you're the Nevadans that decide this for all of us other Nevadans. Okay, I don't want to get mixed up in that. All we want you in Nevada to do as a commission is not establish and not interpret anything that our legislature has done, because it hasn't done anything on this issue. But under this,
I think the legislature has done something with respect to
Well,
predators, and it's done something very different from what occurred in California.
it has said coyotes are just totally unprotected. But under these rules and regulations that you can make, you can protect the coyotes, the manner of the taking of these coyotes, and all we're asking you to do is establish a regulation that says having contests with prize money, et cetera, to take, I think one of the proposals in California said fur bearers. I would say taking unprotected wildlife, not just limited to coyotes, because sure as heck you stop them from going out and killing coyotes willy-nilly for a $100 or a $500 prize. They'll decide to go out and kill as many magpies as they want, or as many jackrabbits as they want. I mean, the point of the petition is just the wanton and wasteful killing of our wildlife for fun, just for fun and a contest. And I know that your staff and your staff attorneys can figure out a way to word that correctly to satisfy all of you, that you can stop these contests, whether you call it an individual contest or a tournament or a derby or whatever they want to call it.
So I take it from that comment, you would prefer a regulation that bans all contests, tournaments, or derbies involving unprotected, not limited to the coyotes. So you want us to go a little bit further than what Mr. Bolts did.
That's correct. I would go further than that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions by the commission? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Moldy, come on up. You're going to wrap up, I understand.
That's correct. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I just want to address one thing. The question has been raised, why are coyote killing contests different from other hunting and fishing contests, fishing derbies and trophy hunts and whatnot? And I think that there are three ways of thinking about it. First of all, some of you may not know where this came from, but in 1964, the U.S. Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart famously said, quote, "I know it when I see it," when the court was considering a movie and whether it was pornographic. Many of us view photographs of the end results of coyote killing contests and know in an instant, at a glance, that something terrible has happened. We know it when we see it. That's my first response. The second view, well, let me expand on that. What do you think would happen if there were a trophy deer hunt or elk hunt or a bighorn hunt, pronghorn hunt, and the participants at the end of a weekend brought those animals into a parking lot or a dirt lot on the edge of town, dumped them into a pile, helter-skelter, and then stood around and took photographs of them and posted them on the internet, as is done in these contests? I think we all know that you would have controversy and uproar from all sides if you had that happen to you. So I think a photograph tells a lot, and that's why I mentioned that as my first line of response. Secondly, coyote killing contests to me violate at least two provisions of the North American model of wildlife conservation, which you guys like to talk about. There's a prohibition against frivolous use of wildlife, and there's a second provision that science is to be used in the management of wildlife. Those two tenets, I think, are obviously violated by coyote killing contests. There's no better definition of the frivolous killing of an animal than a coyote killing contest and the photographs that document it. Furthermore, the other two tenets that I think apply here of the North American model have to do with the public trust issue, which says that wildlife belongs to everybody, already mentioned, and the idea that there's a democratic rule of law as it applies to wildlife management. That's the other tenet. Those are 4 of the 7 systems of the North American wildlife conservation model. And one of the reason I mentioned the last 2 is for this reason. It seems to me that these photographs, when we look at them, have a strong sense of entitlement embedded within the photographs. That the promoters and the participants who speak and act and carry out these contests do so as though the coyote was their own personal property to do with what they wish. And if you couple that with their unsubstantiated claims of benefits, like we're controlling the population, we're saving pets, I think these activities, in my view, amount to nothing more than destruction of private property without good cause. And it's an interesting thing I've observed over the years that it seems like destruction of private property, public property rather, I'm sorry, without good cause generally is considered a crime, except in wildlife management where destruction of public property goes on all the time with no consequences. Some legal and I think some that ought to be illegal. But at any rate, that's not really what this is all about. The real reason why these contests are wrong goes like this. Why is the coyote the animal of choice for such events? Why not a fox, badger, skunk, crow, jackrabbit, raccoon, feral cat? Anything that's not protected by quotas or tags or through federal parliaments. The answer is because the coyote is hated by many sportsmen, by ranchers, and even some who work in wildlife management agencies. It is routinely demonized by some of those people who seek to kill it as justification for doing so. Its status as unprotected comes not because of biological considerations, but because of a long-standing dislike of the animal. So, in a way, coyote killing contests to me represent a wildlife version of a hate crime. The difference here is that the animal is the victim, not another group of humans. So, with that as a starting point, consider the rest of the story. Notice that the participants in these contests are not finished when the animal is killed. The obligatory post-control or post-contest group photograph, dead coyotes piled all over the place, helter-skelter, is done in a deliberate manner, in my view, to show a final, to give a final dose of visual disrespect, if I can put it that way, to the animal, even though the animal is dead. And if you add to that what sometimes happens, the dumping of carcasses as trash outside of town, sometimes with their jaws wired shut, wood plugs in their mouth. It's the final trashing of the animal that the participants think they have accomplished. So the difference, really then, between coyote killing contests and other events that are legitimate is fairly simple. The participants and the promoters appear to have no respect for the lives of those animals that they have just killed. And by extension, one has to wonder if they have respect for other non-human life. And it seems to me that we don't want people plundering our wildlife or legitimately hunting and fishing and trapping who don't have some respect for the animals they kill. That, to me, is the strongest argument for considering a ban on such contests. So, to me, this picture paints a deficiency that is of such a magnitude, judging from the visual evidence, if nothing else, that it needs to be addressed. You're the agency on the hook at the moment, because you're charged by law to do something to look after the public trust. The promoters, the participants, are unlikely to be any different. They're not going to change. So somebody has to do something. We're asking you. That's why you're here. That's why we're here. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for Dr. Moldy? Seeing none,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
appreciate the presentation. Any discussion at this point by the board? Everyone's interested in public comment?
I do have some
Commissioner
comments.
Johnston?
I'd like to go back and I spent some time, and I really wanted to understand, because so many of the emails and correspondence I had received referenced what the California Fish and Game Commission did. I wanted to have an understanding of that. And I don't believe the press reports that have reported on what the California Fish and Game Commission did is accurate. I'd like to talk about that a little bit, if I may, Mr. Chairman. The California legislature adopted a statute in their Fish and Game Code, Section 2003. And that statute provides, with the exception of the exceptions set forth in the statute, it is unlawful to offer any prize or other inducement as a reward for the taking of any game, birds, mammals, fish, reptiles, or amphibians in an individual contest, tournament, or derby. As a result, the California legislature, via its statute, banned all wildlife contests. There is a manner by which you can get a permit for a fishing derby involving game fish in California. Notably, the ban in California appears to be so broad that subsection C of that statute says this section does not apply to any person conducting what are generally known as frog jumping contests or fish contests conducted in waters of the Pacific Ocean. So the California legislature felt the need to clarify that their ban did not include a frog jumping contest. They then later adopted subsection D to their statute. That section then said, this section, meaning the prohibition on the contest, does not apply to any person conducting an individual contest, tournament, or derby for the taking of game, birds, and mammals if the total value of all prizes or other inducements is less than $500 for the individual contest, tournament, or derby. What the California Fish and Game Commission then did was to clarify the ambiguity that they found to exist in that statute. And what they did was to basically state, via Section 465 of Title 14 of their regulatory code, that pursuant to Fish and Game Code Section 2003, it is unlawful to offer any prize or other inducement as a reward for the taking of fur bearers in an individual contest, tournament, or derby. That was to clarify that the legislative prohibition against wildlife contests applied to fur bearers, and that the exception for contests with prize money under $500 did not apply to fur bearers. That is the code section the petitioners cite. The California Fish and Game Commission also adopted, in addition to Section 472 of their regulatory code. That is the one that would be applicable to the coyote in California. And it too says, pursuant to Fish and Game Code Section 2003, it is unlawful to offer any prize or other inducement as a reward for the taking of non-game mammals in an individual contest, tournament, or derby. That too, according to the record and when they adopted these regulations, was to simply clarify that non-game mammals were in fact covered by the blanket prohibition the California legislature had adopted in Fish and Game Code Section 2003A, and that non-game mammals were not included in the allowable types of contests provided for in California Fish and Game Code Section 2003D when the prize value is less than $500. So what I want to make clear is that the California Fish and Game Code simply clarified what the California legislature had already prohibited. the California Fish and Game Code did not enact any prohibitions that did not already exist under California law. And so these comments about following the lead of the California Fish and Game Commission are not entirely accurate, okay, because they simply clarified what the California legislature had already banned. And notably, when the California Fish and Game Code, or Fish and Game Commission, looked at potential economic impacts of their regulation, they said there would be none because we're simply clarifying the law. So I want to make clear that there is a distinction here as to what we're being asked to do, which is to create a new prohibition that is not found in Nevada statute, and what the California Fish and Game Commission did in clarifying an existing legislative ban on wildlife contests. So I wanted to make that clear as we go into public comment and as we consider this petition today.
Any other discussion at this time? Commissioner Lane?
I guess, in response to what Commissioner Johnson is saying, I think it would be, if the commission decided to move forward in an attempt to look at this issue, that discussion of the, the legislative issues would be a part of that review. It would seem to me, in looking at this area, that would be a part of any further discussion that the commission would have. So I would hope that we wouldn't just come out and say, because the legislature has not set up something similar in Nevada, that we would then not be allowed to do something as a part of this commission. So I appreciate what you have discussed this morning, but I would hope it would not limit us in terms of looking at this issue and addressing some of the legal ramifications if we were to take this on.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not suggesting the distinction between what occurred in California and what we're asking here is definitive on precluding this commission from taking any action. I was just wanting to put in the proper context the discussion, because there was just so many. I received hundreds of emails, as you all did as well. So many of them referencing California, and in addition, more importantly, the petition themselves referencing what occurred in California. I just wanted to put it in the proper context. So.
Okay. And I'll remind the board that today what we're considering is to accept the petition to initiate regulation, or denying and initiating that regulation. So our process is pretty clear in that if we accept the petition, it initiates the regulation process. Again, there's no warranty or guarantee on how that goes forward. So, additional comments from the board before we take it out to the public at this point? Okay, just a couple comments from me. Again, I appreciate folks being respectful during the presentation. I would ask if you have sidebar conversations that you just absolutely have to have, please go outside so we're not disrespectful to the folks who are presenting. I will start with the county advisory boards, just from a personal basis. What works for me is sticking to the merits of the conversation. I don't appreciate people's character, ethics, being called into question. If you feel that's necessary, you're certainly welcome to state that, but it's not as effective to me as sticking to the conversation. So please keep that in mind. So county advisory boards, if you would, I'm looking for your representative who's been chosen to speak today to come on up and represent the discussion and the public comment that you had at your county meetings. So county advisory boards, please come up if you have comment. Again, state your name for the record and the county you're representing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Bert Gurr, and I represent Oakland County. We had a really good meeting the other day. Probably more people there than I've seen in a long time. I've only been on the board this time for about 6 months. I was on the county board 35 years ago for 10 years. This was a great meeting. It has people would expect, Elko County and the people in Elko County are in opposition to this ban, are strongly in opposition to it. Some of the organizers of some of these events were there and brought up points that were pretty valid. When these animals are taken, you know, believe me, if you've ever tried to call a coyote, it's not the easiest thing in the world. But when they do, they bring them in and, you know, they pile them up and move, take pictures and do all that stuff. But then they skin these animals. The skins, the pelts, are then sold, and all the proceeds from all those that were done in Elko County have been going to charities. Breast cancer awareness, different economic places, the skulls were used, various body parts used for other things. And skinning 300 coyotes after they've been dead in a day or two is not a pleasant job. There are people who do that for these guys. It also represented that 10% was withheld in that world contest in Elko a few years ago. And that didn't go to the organizers. None of the people doing this are making money on this. That all went to charity too. So there's nobody getting rich or making a living off of organizing a coyote contest. And remember, it's a calling contest more than it is a killing contest. For those of us who have tried it, all we've ever been able to do is educate them so that they have calls things like the economics. Some of the people, you know, if you bring in 300 people to a little area like Battle Mountain for 2 days, the economics for that little community, that's the biggest event Battle Mountain has over here. And that was brought up. Let's see. It was also brought up in the meeting that New Mexico did not pass that legislation. I don't know, I didn't check it because it was not at the time, but it was brought up that they didn't pass whatever legislation was being posted in the petition. Also it was brought up that coyotes are pretty rampant everywhere. And they had a school shut down in Las Vegas. The lockdown, they locked the kids down in school because there was a coyote in the area. And it was in the KTMV, East Las Vegas, Trop and Spencer, Jack Daly Elementary School on November 27, 2012. So they even locked down the school for a coyote being around. So I don't know, was that fear? Coyotes, as people who live in rural areas know, they're very damaging to wildlife. We had some people, one person say people ought to be more attentive to their wildlife, their cows and sheep. Anybody in that business knows that if a cow decides to have a calf at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're probably not out there if it's 30 below. A coyote is though, and a lot of times the calf doesn't survive, nor does the calf. I mean, it depends on how things go. But they are predators, and they will eat anything and everything. Dogs, cats, wherever they can get to. And these people, when they have these contests, you kill them in coyotes. And believe me, I've probably killed way more coyotes when I've been hunting deer than I've killed even looking for coyotes. Driving down the road, sitting in the field. I think most of us do that. There aren't that many participants that I know how to do calling contests. The other thing that came out of the public meeting was that instead of just banning, if it doesn't decide to go with the petition to go forward with regulations, we think you ought to, and a member of your commission was at our meeting, former member, Mike Reardon. He and our chairman of the commission decided that maybe we ought to take some of that predator control money that we get from the license fees, a bounty on all coyotes, so we can help keep the sage-grouse from going on the endangered species list. I think that pretty much covered everything. And with that, I'll make any comments from the Elko County. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
Oh, wait a minute, I've got one more, excuse me, Mr. Chairman. We met with the Elko County Commissioner on Wednesday. And they sent a letter down to Susan, I don't know if she got it or not, so if I may, I'll read it into the.
I believe that letter hasn't been distributed, I know I saw it.
Do I need to read it in to make it a matter of record, or is it?
No, it'll be part of our exhibit file, and I don't think there's a desire necessarily to get it to be written into the record. I think we all received it.
Just the total opposition also. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for the thorough recap of the meeting. Other county advisory board members, Glenn, come on up.
Glenn Bunch, Mineral County. We had a contest in our county, 2 to be exact, but the one they had this year had the most participation in. The total kill was 32. Yes, they brought them in, they laid them down, took pictures of them, but as soon as the pictures were taken, they were got off the ground, they were got the skins removed, they went to wherever it was sold, and the money was put back into a fund there in town for crippled children. But one of the things that popped up on this one just before the event started, Bureau of Land Management showed up. Said, hey, you're having a contest on Bureau of Land Management property, public property. You have to insure the event. You have to insure the participants. We want 10% of your admission charge for the participants to enter. If you have more than 500 or 50 people, the percentage goes up. If you have less than that, too bad. We're not giving any money back. They had to go get insurance to insure the hunters as well as the public area. And that was before the contest was allowed to be done. So this isn't just, and it's maybe in other areas it hasn't got that way yet, but the one in Mineral County just did. They had to pay BLM their fee before it happened. Thank you.
Bunch additional county advisory boards.
The Elko can't hear the conversation.
Okay.
Somebody's mic's keyed.
So Elko, it sounds like Elko's having trouble hearing the conversation. We'll have our AV folks look into it. County advisory board, let's continue for now.
Rob Jacobson, Lyon County Advisory Board. Our staff voted unanimously to reject the petition. And we had some public participation, and they were in agreement that we should, that we should reject the petition as well.
Thank you. Additional county advisory boards, Washoe.
Sean Shea, Washoe County. We voted 4-1 to deny the petition, you guys. One thing that was brought up though, which I should think we looked at, is these guys that come into these contests. Everybody that comes into these contests should be licensed to hunt in the same area. There's a lot of revenue being lost from some of these out-of-staters that don't have to have a hunt license to come into these contests, and that's just one of the things brought up.
Okay, additional county advisory boards, come on up.
Brad Block, White Pine County Advisory Board. We voted unanimously to reject the petition. One of the points I'd like to bring up was there was no public comment at all. There was no one at our meeting at all except for NDOW representatives. And I really felt like, listening to the arguments from these gentlemen over here, that we didn't get the entire argument. I know personally it might have swayed me, but I just want to bring that up. But the board did reject the petition. So I got.
Additional county advisory boards. Doug, come on up. Kathy, was Sean representing?
Should I give my comments?
I'd wait, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Carson City brought this up, and it was brought up. And we voted unanimously not to support this petition. A couple of the comments were that this sets a bad precedent for other areas, hunting contests, fishing contests. Another one is that this is an animal that is not protected. And then also comments from the public included that one of the members of the public was talking about servicing the John Squadron's ranch, and that they had direct results of reduction of lambing loss to coyotes because of the hunting that was occurring on the ranch. And then just a personal note, I think part of what you're being asked here today is that you are asking to regulate social behavior, and I don't think that that's part of the purview of the commission. Thank you very much.
County Advisory Board? Okay, seeing none, I will open it up to public comment, and I would like,
Excuse me. If I might, I forgot something that the gentleman from Marshall County brought up to again for the record from the Elko. That was, the licensing thing was discussed heavily. I just forgot my note on it. To license these hunters, make sure they're all licensed. Make a requirement if they're in the state of Nevada. I think, is it New Mexico has a fee that they have to pay to go down there and hunt. I think it's like a 3-day license for like $50. And I think we ought to do that too, and make sure that people hunting that are licensed up here. And that would be a plus for the state. Thank you.
all right, I'm going to start with public comment in Las Vegas. We'll go to our remote sites first. So public comment in Las Vegas. Like I said, if you're representing a group, please state so we can give you 6 minutes. Otherwise, state your name and we'll give you 3 minutes.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Jana Wright, for the record, representing myself, testifying in support of the petition to ban coyote killing contests. Animal killing contests for prizes or entertainment is a sad and negative reflection on hunters. I was disgusted in December 2014 when I learned that a New Mexico State Game Commissioner and his partner finished 6th and pocketed $1,300 for a coyote killing contest in Elko, Nevada. It also saddens me we poison coyotes and allow government agencies to gun them down from the air. What a total disrespect for wildlife. The North American model of wildlife conservation suggests that wildlife should only be killed for a legitimate purpose. A contest with prize money for killing animals doesn't meet the criteria, in my opinion. These type of contests remind me of dog fighting or cockfighting, which are unethical and disgusting to most people. Voting in the affirmative to accept this petition merely directs staff to work on a regulation to reach a goal of ending coyote killing contests. It does not ban the killing of coyotes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next person in Las Vegas.
Hi, this is Stephanie Myers. I live in Lee Canyon, and I also am testifying in support of the petition. Participants in these contests say they're doing a public service. Yes, coyotes do kill rural livestock and sometimes urban dogs, but these problems can be and are being managed with non-lethal means. Responsible owners should care for their urban dogs and take their food inside. Livestock can be protected by herding guard dogs, fencing strategies, and moving herds during birthing season. Our own government, the USDA Wildlife Services, killed 73,000 coyotes in 2013 using cyanide poisoning and aerial shooting from planes and helicopters. And the public paid for this. Wildlife biologists say that coyotes respond to these mass slaughters by adjusting their own reproduction rates. Coyote populations, like all wild predators, are controlled by their prey, which mainly consist of small mammals like rabbits. They balance their own populations. They don't need help in balancing the population. There is no reason, ethically, economically, or ecologically, to support predator killing contests. These contests are not wildlife management. Wildlife killing contests should not be allowed on public lands. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next comment from Vegas.
Okay, my name is Carmen Rhoda, and I'm here as an individual just to hopefully have the general public represented. And I would urge that you to accept this petition to ban coyote killing contest. This thought of senseless mass slaughter of any animal is repugnant to me. And I feel that the coyote serves a purpose in the ecosystem. And this outmoded style of wildlife management defies reason, because when left to their own devices, coyotes will naturally limit their own populations. Now, I live in an area where there were many coyotes. As the last couple of years, coyote numbers have been reduced to a mere nothing because of wanton, senseless shootings. And as a result, now we are overrun with rabbits and mice. And several years ago, we had an outbreak of hantavirus because of the mice. So the coyotes do serve a purpose in the ecosystem. And when you live in an area where there are coyotes, which is most of Nevada, you learn to keep your animals fenced in or locked up, as we do with our chickens and our cats. I have had no problems with coyotes in the 8 years that I've lived in Cold Creek, because they are naturally shy and avoid people at all costs. But on the contrary, I've had numerous problems with so-called hunters up there driving around with spotlights, shooting in the dark in the direction of my house. And this is an activity that should be banned. To me, there is nothing sporting about the killing contest. The animals are called out through trickery and deceit, then slaughtered. Because it serves no reasonable purpose, I urge you to accept the petition to ban this egregious activity. It's a shame to me as a native Nevadan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next comment, Las Vegas.
My name is Frank Benjamin. I represent myself. I'm in support of the petition. Coyote contests are really a sad reflection on our whole society. It really is. We need to ban these activities. We also need to look at, as brought up earlier, the language that is submitted in these petitions. California may have banned contests, however, they are going around these contests by not offering cash prizes, and the contests still continue. What purpose does this serve? Coyotes have a place in our environment. As was mentioned, they take away rabbits and rats. There are places between Colorado Springs and Albuquerque, New Mexico, that endure 500 cases of bubonic plague in the 21st century today. These are the kinds of things that coyotes prevent. Rabbits are the chief competitor for forage for livestock. You simply control rabbits by having coyotes. You control coyotes by having wolves. And oh my God, what a bad word to say in Nevada. But all of these things are here for a reason, and I have not yet met a man that can create a planet and a system better than God did. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in Las Vegas?
That concludes
Thank
our
you,
comment, Chairman.
Thank you. Elko, are you back up on the feed?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, Elko, we can hear you. Public comment on the petition.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is John Carpenter. I'm a native of Nevada. Been in the ranching business for many years, as well as other endeavors. I was a member of the county commissioners. I was in the state legislature for 24 years. And in my ranching career, people don't understand the damage that coyotes do to our livestock. After the pups are raised, the coyotes, I guess they're out on a binge, you'd call it, to kill. I've counted up to 75 lambs killed in one night by a pair of coyotes. They don't eat them, they just leave them there to lay to rot. Also, they kill the lambs when they have the pups. They come in and they take the heart and the liver from the lambs. They suck the milk. They go to the dens and regurgitate it. They kill many, many lambs this way. And when you're in the cattle business, they come and when the cow is having a calf, they eat on that calf. Afterwards, they eat the afterbirth and eat the rear end of the cow. So the coyotes do a lot of damage. And I understand that, people think it's a wanton slaughter. But without predator control, you cannot survive in the livestock business, especially in the sheep business. And I really don't see much difference in when we have a hunting season. There's thousands of hunters and hundreds of hunters released in one day. They go out there after the deer and the elk and whatever. And then we have big buck contests. We have fishing contests. I don't see much difference. I'm absolutely opposed to this petition. I believe that things are working the way that it is, and I think a lot of people have said the good that these hunts do in the amount of money that they contribute to charity and other worthwhile causes. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Next comment from Elko.
My name is Walt Gardner. I'm representing myself. I am opposed to the...
Well, I don't know if you can hear us, but I don't know if you just turned your mic off or not.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got to agree with John Carpenter. As a rancher, these coyotes are detrimental to my livestock. I fence them in. I herd them. I still lose livestock to coyotes. These coyote calling contests are not designed to degrade the animal. They're designed to reduce the coyote population, thereby helping the cattle producers and the wildlife. And I hope you guys deny this petition. Thank you.
Next comment from Elko.
Yeah, my name is Dave Gowan. It's pushed. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I'm representing myself, and I have a little different attitude about this whole thing, as a coyote hunter and someone who's actually put on coyote hunts over the years and participated in many. I see it as a community event, and an event of like-minded people that enjoy similar interests, and there's just a bunch of guys that really like to get together, that just love coyote hunting. They actually have a lot of respect for the coyote as a game animal, as their quarry. To eliminate a contest really would have minimal effect on the amount of coyote hunting that's going to go on. Everyone who comes to the contest is going to hunt coyotes anyway, and a lot of them travel to Nevada just for the opportunity to hunt our coyotes because we have such a great coyote population. Really, all the contest is just a wager amongst people in a friendly situation. And it really stimulates the economy. If you add up, we figured that, each hunter spends a minimum of $500 to travel to Nevada to hunt coyotes during those hunts. If you had 300 participants, that's $150,000 worth of economic stimulus for one coyote calling contest, with a great deal of that money going back to the community in the form of charity and different things. So, and the other thing is that, in the World Hunt that was held in Elko, all those coyotes were used. There's a fur buyer that comes in and bids on the coyotes. They take them, they skin them, they sell them. It's not as if they are being wasted. And it's really, in my opinion, has little effect on the overall coyote population, but it does help. It does help somewhat. Thank you for listening to my comments.
Is there anyone else in Elko that wants to comment, or is that everyone?
That's everyone.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll come back to Reno. I would ask that a couple of folks come up and line up so that we can get through this quickly. Ms. Smith, not to put you on the spot, but if you'd like to go first, I think you had something to add to the cab piece, and then you can provide your personal testimony as well.
Kathy Smith, Reno, Nevada. Now, I didn't really have anything additional to add on the cab notes.
Okay.
I was just gonna make my own comments.
Okay.
I'm voting, or I'd like to voice my support to accept the petition. There really is no significant role for coyote killing contest in wildlife management. Endow maintains a philosophy that predator management is a tool to be applied deliberately and strategically. Coyote killing contests are neither of these. They further state that predator management should be applied on a case-by-case basis with clear goals and based on an objective scientific analysis of available data. Additionally, to quote Pat Jackson's recent article, only a 10% survival rate must survive to reproduce and maintain coyote populations. Removing less than 75% of a coyote population may actually increase the population through decreases in reproduction. So there is no scientific basis for a coyote killing contest. There is no evidence to suggest that humans or pets are safer because of coyote killing contests. Are coyote killing contests ethical? Is it okay to kill for fun? It depends on who you ask. Most would say no. Boone and Crockett has come out against these contests. If hunters are concerned about their reputations, this is the type of event they should try and stop. Continuing events similar to this make no sense while simultaneously trying to ramp up a PR campaign to improve the public perception of hunters. In a recent local news interview, a gentleman summed up the reason for coyote killing contests well. Shooting them is fun. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that coyote killing contests are part of most hunters' culture. I think most hunters are more ethical. How long are you going to let the more unethical sportsmen continue to define who you are? I request that you please accept this petition. It should be done at the commission level. We should try to avoid legislating on how wildlife is treated. Thank you.
Thanks. Ms. Sturgis?
Hello, everyone. My name is Leah Sturgis, and I'm just speaking on behalf of myself today in support of the petition. I used to be one of the people who would lay awake at night in fear, hearing the wild cries of coyotes and worry that a coyote was going to come out of the shadows and steal away one of my pets and gobble them up. And then over the years, after spending more time in the outdoors, my perspective began to change. One year, while walking my dog on our ranch, I noticed a coyote coming out of the drainage pipe in the field. I got out of the telescope and watched the two little pups emerge from the pipe. They began to play together and roll in the grass, just as if they were puppies. When I would walk out to the field, I would see the female leave the den, and although she remained watchful, she allowed my dog and I to walk near her den and look at the pups. Sometimes on the walks with my dog, she would follow us home. When my dog noticed, he would chase her, and she would run away and hide for a while, and then as soon as she thought he was gone, she would emerge from the brush and follow us again. I started thinking that she must be trying to lure my dog out of my sight so that she and the pack could attack him and eat him. But the more I watched this female coyote, I realized she was just genuinely trying to play with my dog. She would roll around her back and bound around playfully, and over time I started seeing coyotes from a new perspective. Slowly, all of the myths that I heard over time were dispelled. One myth is that they kill cattle. I can honestly say that since my father bought our ranch in the 1940s, we have never had one incident of a coyote killing a cow or a calf. On the contrary, I have witnessed the coyotes mingling with the cattle. The heifers and the calves would be grazing, and there would be coyotes hunting gophers just feet away. I was surprised to see that the cows were absolutely unconcerned with the coyote that mingled in and out of the herd. When my dog would approach, the cattle would scatter. Just 3 days ago, I noticed a heifer had given birth to a stillborn. I watched as the coyote waited very patiently for the mother to leave her calf. Even when the calf was dead, the coyote was still not aggressive in the least bit. It wasn't until the mother finished her mourning and left the calf that the coyote then went to go feed on the calf. I know there will be people here that will say coyotes kill cattle, and neither I nor any of my family members have ever seen this happen on our ranch over the span of 75 years. I think that's really important here. It has become apparent to me that the coyote is an incredibly misunderstood animal. They are just trying to survive in an ever-changing world as man encroaches in and our development threatens their habitat. We build up roads and highways that cut off their migratory routes, we dam up their water sources, and then we hunt and compete for the same prey, the very animals that they need to eat in order to survive, such as deer, elk, rabbit, etc. Through all of man's conquering of the wild, the coyote has still survived, and in my opinion, they deserve our respect. We should not be adding insult to injury by trying to hunt them down in their last places of refuge and totally annihilate them. The idea that we should eradicate wildlife because they pose a threat to our domestic cats and dogs is a terrible way to try to coexist with life on this planet. Wildlife needs to be respected and preserved by humans as responsible stewards of this earth. The demonization of coyotes has become painfully obvious to me. Man's hostility has been so cruel and unfair to the coyote, and I say enough is enough. I ended up rescuing a puppy from a wild dog.
Ms. Sturgis, you're approaching 3 minutes.
Okay, coming up.
Wrap
He was
up.
part coyote, and he was the most loving, most wonderful dog in the world. You can take a coyote pup and raise him up, give him the same love and affection you would a domestic dog, and he'll act no different than a dog. How can we love our dogs so much and hate coyotes so much? It's crazy and hypocritical. And it's similar with the wolves. I just want to mention one thing, that there's a couple famous cases of wolves raising human babies. A famous case of 2 girls in India, Mala and Kamala, who were spotted coming in and out of a wolf's den and walking on all fours. The wolf girls were about 18 months and 8 years old.
Sturgis, you're over 3 minutes, so I'm
Okay,
gonna
if
ask
you don't believe me, look it up, but it's true.
Rather than
If
going
the
on,
world
I'm gonna
can-
ask you a question. Are
Okay.
you representing the League of Humane Voters or yourself?
I'm going to represent myself because I think people are here speaking on behalf,
Okay.
so I thought just one person.
Then I'd ask you to
So I
wrap
just
it
want
up.
to say and finish up by saying coyotes are no different than dogs. I want to do everything I can to stop the senseless killing of these remarkable animals. Killing for killing's sake is just ignorant and cruel. Thank you.
And you can hand that in for our exhibit file.
Go ahead.
Anybody
so
that
much.
has statement copies.
Next
please give
person,
them.
please. Yeah, if you have written testimony, you're welcome to submit it for the exhibit file, and we'll keep a copy, but let's respect everyone's time and stick to it. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. I am Jeanette Dean of Washoe Valley, and it is my pleasure to speak before you today on behalf of the Sierra Club Toyabe chapter, whose region includes all of Nevada. We would like to state our full support for the banning of coyote killing contests in Nevada, and we would define those as contests providing prizes of any monetary amount or non-monetary awards, and announcing the contest through any communication, not just public forms of publicity or advertising. Our support for the contest ban is based on several important reasons, and I will share 5 today. Reason 1 is that the coyote is an animal that plays a key role in our western desert ecosystems, especially with its diet, including rodents, rabbits, and hares. Their natural hunting ability is free and organic and should not be unnecessarily limited. Scientists have only recently been determining how critical predators are to our ecosystems, as evidenced in the new groundbreaking study, Status and Ecological Effects of the World's Largest Carnivores, which was conducted and published in the journal Science in January 2014 by over 14 scientists. Reason 2 is that the mass slaughter of coyotes does not actually effectively control their populations, as there is a rebound effect that leads to even higher birth rates. For example, indiscriminate hunting can disrupt the family units where only the parents had been breeding. In addition, a subsequent problem is that other animals then migrate into lands where the mass killings have occurred. I have included evidence for this information in an attached statement signed by over 50 scientists for Project Coyote and the attached February 19 article against the contest by the Humane Society of the United States. Reason 3 is that we understand there is no authorized coyote management plan by the Nevada Department of Wildlife, and any non-selective and often misused predator control techniques, such as poisons, bounties, aerial shooting, and especially killing contests, do more damage than good. In addition, if there is a particular coyote problem in a specific place that endangers public health, then it should be dealt with as the unique circumstances demand by animal control officers and the Department of Wildlife, not hunters. Reason 4 is that the coyote killing contests that occur in our state appear to be largely for the entertainment and benefit of the participants, with prizes being offered, yet they occur on public lands and kill animals that belong to all of us. Such contests make a spectacle out of wanton and indiscriminate killing of wildlife. Lastly, reason 5 is that the state of California is also home to a large coyote population, and they have agreed with the wisdom of banning such contests and done so. As Brad Johnson, Commissioner, pointed out, they may have slightly different rules than we're suggesting here today. Other Western states are currently working with similar regulation, including New Mexico, whose bill just passed their Senate on February 13th. We therefore support the petition by the Nevadans for Responsible Wildlife Management, who are asking for a ban on coyote killing contests in our state as well. In summary, we believe these 5 reasons are more than adequate for a firm decision to be made by the Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners to ban coyote killing contests. As a Nevada organization, we represent over 4,000 members who value their public lands and the wildlife on it, and our Sierra Club Toyabe chapter respectfully requests that such a ban happens very soon, if not immediately. Thank you again for holding this important public meeting today.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Carrick.
Elaine Carrick, and I'm speaking for myself. I'm supportive of the petition. I do have a couple prepared comments, but I'd like to comment on a couple things that people have said today. There was the comment that stopping coyote killing contests would regulate social behavior. We have all kinds of laws that regulate unacceptable social behavior. We have regulations against, laws against domestic abuse, pedophiles. So I think if the public feels that killing contests are unacceptable, I don't think it's really regulating public behavior. A second comment that I wanted to make regarding the California coyote killing contest, which several comments were made that they've stopped that there. Well, we are Nevada, and I'm sure that we could come up with wording that would suit the people that are here today that are totally against this kind of contest. I don't think it'd be difficult. And California has their own set of things, and I think people that commented on that were simply saying, well, it's been done there, why can't we do something here? And I don't think we have to stop fishing contests. But anyway, just getting to my comments here, the coyote killing contests they're really killing the public's wildlife for entertainment and fun. The proponents of these contests say they're managing coyotes. When does indiscriminate killing of any wildlife constitute management of a species? They're killing every coyote they see that comes out of the bushes, and often other animals that happen to be in the bushes can also get killed. We've already talked about biologists and ecologists who've said that mass killings just increase the number of coyotes. The Department of Wildlife oversees the management of our state's wildlife. There's a great article on the website that talks about Nevada's coyotes, and that's titled "Coyotes, Part of Our Ecosystem." Nowhere.
30 seconds.
Oh dear. I don't think I can make it in 30 seconds. Could I have just a little bit more?
Or what you can do is hand in your testimony.
Well, all right.
Wrap up with your points.
Okay. Anyway, they say every time you see a coyote, you don't have to call the Nevada Department of Wildlife. And so I think they understand that. The killing contests have been under the public's radar for years, but the cat is out of the bag, so to speak, and it can't be put in. The public is outraged, and it's not going away. As Nevadans, we can all do better than creating this kind of image for our state. We really need to ban these, and you as commissioners, I think, could take a stand on this. The coyotes.
Last point.
Okay, okay,
Please
thank
hand in
you.
your-
Okay, coyotes are not killed for food, trophies, or any reason but for fun. I think we can do better than that, and it really reflects hunters, which I think most hunters try to be ethical. It really gives them a bad name.
Thank you, Ms.
So,
Kay.
thank you.
Next.
My name is James Schmidt. Is there? My name is James Schmidt. I'm here speaking for myself. I'm a retired USDA Wildlife Services coyote specialist, or an expert as I was called. I was a biological science technician. I'm 54 years in the field dealing with coyotes. I started very young. I spent 210 days in the field dealing with coyotes firsthand, 40 miles off the nearest paved road for long periods of time dealing with coyotes. I first published an article in 1971 concerning coyotes, and if you look on the internet concerning biting coyote in Green Valley, Arizona, that was a scientific study concerning urban coyotes and biting people. I provided samples for the CDC. I provided samples for the Arizona State Laboratory concerning coyotes. I know coyotes forward and backward. I'm the person, the field person, while I have a college degree, I'm the field person that the biologists that write the studies rely on to get all the information that they put into their studies. Make no mistake that this is an anti-hunting movement. It has little to do with coyotes. It has everything to do with stopping hunting, and they're starting with coyotes first. The general public has not demonstrated that they dislike this. It's a statement that's broadly made, and they've not come out in some kind of mass survey saying that they're opposed to it. Sportsmen do not oppose this either. In fact, many sportsmen groups contribute to the coyote control by either participating in coyote control or adding support, cash support for costs of the activity. To protect the image of the sportsman, this is a quality, well-run activity that has proven to be a very usable control method for coyotes. Coyotes have to be controlled. In my time with the USDA Wildlife Services, I work at it every single day, sometimes 14 to 18 hours a day, dealing with coyote damage, seeing what they do, seeing that they kill pets, seeing that they kill livestock, seeing that they bite people, they bite children. They're dangerous. They eat vegetables. They eat everything. They absolutely eat everything.
No comments.
To join California in what they're doing, they have no trapping, no cougar hunting, no lead bullets. And I agree with what was said earlier, that the wording was very misleading. I was the expert witness in New Mexico for the New Mexico legislature, and that bill was defeated in New Mexico. On Tuesday, it was thrown out of the Arizona legislature when they tried to slip it in on the back end of a bill. This is not a popular thing that's going on. The other states are not supporting this. They are saying no. So for you to say no would be a good thing. Utah has a bounty. Idaho wants nothing to do with it. I was in Tucson at the protest.
3 minutes, so please make your last point.
Okay, thank you. So, again, this is a anti-hunting movement. I urge you to not accept this petition, to turn it down. Don't be fooled by what this is really about. Thank you.
Next comment.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Fauna Tomlinson, and I am representing Project Coyote and our Nevada supporters and members. I play a vital role in Project Coyote to promote the non-lethal program using tools and other livestock guardian dogs. So we save livestock and predators while saving ranchers and taxpayers money. At the 150th American Sheep Industry Convention at John Oswego last month, We had a booth there and we talked to all the sheep ranchers, getting lots of them to come on board using non-lethal deterrents. We have proof that they're less expensive to use and that you actually train the predator to stay away from livestock. Coyote killing contests kill indiscriminate coyotes, causing chaos within the pack, and so you actually get more depredations. There's a study out too from legalists that was printed in the Western Livestock Journal that says killing predators actually increases livestock depredation. Project Coyote. So this is a new tool out that we found. It's got 9 LED lights. It blinks at night, dusk to dawn. They're using them in Montana and Idaho and Wyoming, California, and they simulate human presence. So it looks like there's someone with a flashlight. We're using them in the Himalayas for snow leopards, for lions, for bears, and they're doing really well considering how inexpensive they are. There's nothing that's 100%, but it's a good thing to add to your non-lethal tool. Oregon Fish and Game is using them. Washington Department of Fish and Game, California Fish and Game are using them. Project Coyote is a coalition of educators, scientists, and predator-friendly ranchers, and citizens, leaders promoting coexistence between people and wildlife through education, science, and advocacy. This past year, we successfully petitioned the California Fish and Game Commission, and in December, California banned wildlife killing contests. As the public becomes more aware of the horrors of killing contests, they are asking for bans. This was something that really wasn't well known a couple years ago, and as we make it more public, more people are saying that it's just not acceptable or ethical. So we hope that Nevada will listen to the majority of Nevadans and ban this cruel and unnecessary practice. Does Nevada know how many coyotes there are? I hear everyone saying that there's an abundance of them. I just wondered, do we know how many coyotes Nevada has? As the public, our ecosystems need predators. Playing an invaluable role in nature, coyotes eat at least 1,800 rodents a year. That's a lot of free rodent control. In California, the commissioners recognized that there was no wildlife management purpose to justify this practice. Project Coyote's advisory board was asked to respond to 2 claims made by killing contest supporters, that such contests effectively reduced coyote populations and boost ungulate populations. I shared with you today, which you all have, the scientific letter drafted by Project Coyote's scientific advisory board that countered these claims and showed there's no basis for either in peer-reviewed science. There's no ethical justification for killing wildlife for kicks. In fact, killing contests counter the ethic of fair chase and sportsmanship. The few that engage in killing contests give ethical hunters a bad name. Let me explain. Here's a letter that I received from Boone and Crockett headquarters, and it shares their position statement. It says, Boone and Crockett does not support contests, competitions that award cash or prizes for the taking of wildlife. Even the official hunter's pledge states, take only what you need, even if it's under the legal limit. Don't flaunt or kill. Remember, the future of hunting depends on being considerate and leaving a positive image of hunters. On Valentine's Day last year, a California warden was hit in the neck by a bullet while sitting in his car monitoring a nighttime coyote killing contest. So when there's a coyote killing contest, there's like this bullet frenzy that goes on. There's just, how many can we get? How many rounds can we? Oh my gosh, we have to have the most. And so it becomes very unsafe. Killing coyotes and other wild animals for fun and prizes is not only dangerous to public safety and pets, but also sends a chilling message to children that life is cheap and violence in the form of mass slaughter is acceptable. We hope that you recognize that killing contests have no place in the modern conservation or predator management and are a threat to public safety. We urge you to support the petition and move to ban killing contests statewide. And if you want more information on this really great non-lethal tool, I can help you. I can answer questions later about it. Thank you.
Thank you. If you'd please turn in your written testimony for the exhibit. Next comment, please.
Thank you, Nevada Wildlife Commission, Director Losley, and directors. My name is Julius Fortuna. I'm a longtime Nevada resident who first and foremost is a hunter naturalist. I'm proud to say I had my first hunting license in 1973. And while I'm a member of the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, SCI, DU, Wild Turkey, I have discussed my views at length with the Las Vegas Woods and Water Group and have their total support. It's important to note that I'm passionate about wildlife, and I'm amazed at the wild places they live. My family and I spend 45 days a year in the field enjoying the great outdoors, hunting and fishing. Along with my friend Jim Schmidt, who you heard earlier, we felt that this petition was so strong that we would fly in here from Las Vegas, pay for a rental car, get a hotel. It's that important. And I provided written testimony for the group to take a further look at some of my objections. The key 4 objections are this. There's 4. The first is when you look at the petition sponsors and their out-of-state backers, you know that this is not a plea to defend certain species from becoming endangered. This is about, it's not about NDOW managing coyotes. As a matter of fact, the sponsors today aren't even sure what they're asking. So this is about, let me make it very clear, this is an anti-hunting event. This is not about coyotes, because if it wasn't about coyotes today, it would be about bears and dogs next year, and certainly the story goes on. A win now will sure as the sun will rise tomorrow. They'll be back here with a petition to stop aerial gunning of coyotes, anti-trapping, anti-foxing, and the list goes on. It looks like a duck, and it quacks like a duck. Pretty good odds it's an aquatic bird of the attendee family. So what I'll say is, if this really was about coyote management solutions, they'd have presented something more substantial than just irrational emotional contagion, Teddy Roosevelt's statement, uninformed or unproven conjecture, hypocritical rationale, and self-serving agendas. Number 2, reason. As I read through some of the mass emails from groups, out-of-state backers, talking about what they're asking members of this community to talk to this group about, it became clear that California was what they wanted to replicate. Focus on the California change. What they neglected to say, and actually inappropriately said earlier, was that Nevada or New Mexico voted 8-2 to stop this. They shot this bill down 2 weeks ago. Jim was there as a speaker. The same thing with Utah. Utah totally supports hunting, organized hunting events. As a matter of fact, they felt that the mule deer, undisputed western mule deer decline, they need to do
30 seconds. So give us your, are you representing a group or yourself?
Las Vegas Woods and Waters.
Woods and Waters.
Yes.
Okay.
So just 2 weeks, so let me move through. So why did these states choose to not follow California? In the view, it's to disregard the trophic cascade and the top-down lid that this apex predator causes. It wasn't about social science, it's about social appeasement. They're very upset, number 3, they're very upset about gathering, organizing, motivating, and rewarding. They say that it's archaic. Well, outside the real hunting agenda, this is a spin. The centuries-old tradition, it's emotional contagion at its best. As regardless of the lack of historic issues in depressed coyotes or depressed prey species. And why is this rationale not important? Because to ban this event would be the same as banning bass fishing tournaments from Bassmasters and SCI, who rewards hunters for the biggest, the largest, and the most. It's the same. No one gets rich from these events. The vast majority of money goes right back to Nevada, as we heard earlier, and especially the rural part of Nevada. Gas, gasoline, camping goods, trailers, and the list goes on and on. These organized events do not negatively affect coyote populations 1 iota. And the majority of the events have trappers, and all the hides and skulls are used. The USDA put Nevada's population at over 100,000 and expanding. So why is a wildlife organization going to curb a highly renewable resource opportunity and hunting opportunity? You know, basically in the end it comes down to the vehicle that supports. I heard a lot of times it's tossed around, North American Wildlife Conservation Miracle. The vehicle that funds that is this event. So you stopping potentially opportunities for hunters to recreate directly affects their ability to drive the bus that we call wildlife in this country. And it is not by the public, not by 1 iota. The NDOW, 80% of the NDOW's department money comes from hunting and fishing. It does not come from the public. That right does reserve with us. It's something that we did in 1930. And if you listen to Senator Menendo, there is major issues on public safety of this species. They are in our towns. They have 12 lockdowns of school systems, not to prevent crazed lunatics with a gun, but for the real fear that one of our kids was going to be attacked by a coyote in rural Nevada and urban Nevada. Sadly, the majority of the middle fears coyotes. It's a fact that many loathe predators, whether it's inclusive of human space or not. Let me just read the last one here. So the real question here, and I'll wrap up with this, the real question here is today whether this commission will start down the risky and slippery slope, both politically and ecologically, permitting social appeasement for a small minority of non-consumptive users instead of the sound science and proven historic retrospectives for this sophisticated carnivore. NDOW needs all the tools to help promote an already challenging statutory mandates, and let me be clear, the ability to harvest 300 coyotes in 2 days not only is it cost effective, but it's an impactful potential management tool that could be eliminated here.
Right.
So please follow New Mexico, Utah, and Arizona stances to avoid this and to deny it. Thank you very much.
Next comment, and if you're going to represent a group, please just let me know right up front. I know you had mentioned it, but just let us know.
Hi, my name is Susan Kaufman. I'm just speaking for myself. I have some prepared comments, but I would just like to say we're hearing some contradictory statements, sometimes from the same individual. Does it impact the numbers? Is it a useful tool of management or not? As far as the danger to livestock, a good friend of mine is a sheep farmer. She has 3 livestock guardian dogs. She's lost 2 lambs in 30 years, and that was when she only had 1 dog. So let me say that I am not against hunting in general, but I do think that large-scale coyote hunts are a big mistake for a number of reasons. Just do 5 seconds of legitimate research, and you will know that when you kill off coyotes, prey numbers explode, prompting coyote populations to rebound stronger than before. But what I want you to consider very carefully is that prey explosion period. Why? Because I have witnessed firsthand the total havoc you unleash when you create a coyote-free zone in an area teeming with other wildlife. My last house was in just such an area. The entire acreage was perimeter fenced when we bought it, which we thought was great because no coyotes could get in. But guess what could get in? Rabbits, hares, ground squirrels, gophers, moles, voles, rats, and mice. What harm could such cute little creatures do? Oh, let me count the ways. We had a veritable army of rodents chewing on everything from wires to expensive horse tack, not to mention leaving their disease-laden droppings all over our house and outbuildings. Number 2, every plant I ever tried to grow was eaten by rabbits or pulled underground by moles, sometimes before my very eyes. Number 3, I was worried constantly that my horses would break a leg in all the mole, vole, and squirrel holes peppering the ground. And number 4, which was a biggie, the foundation of our house was seriously damaged when it was undermined by ground squirrels, which we tried 6 ways to Sunday to get rid of. I assumed that everyone in the area had the same issues, but when I asked the neighbor how he dealt with all the various rodents and rabbits, he said, "We don't have that problem at our place. We let the professionals take care of it." So I asked what exterminator company he used. He laughed and said, "I'm talking about the coyotes. Our place ain't fenced, so the coyotes come through and eat all those critters. You fence the coyotes out, and boy, you just created varmint heaven." The moral of this true story is that coyotes are a crucial and important part of a balanced ecosystem. If you get rid of them, you better be prepared for varmint heaven and all the disease, damage, headache, and expense that comes with it. One other point.
30 seconds.
Our local economy relies heavily on tourism, and a big part of that draw is our beautiful wilderness. Do we really want people to associate Reno with this kind of pointless slaughter billed as a contest? Have you really thought about how it looks in the eyes of the world? One more quick point. Lastly, statistics show that a child is 3 million more times to get bitten by a dog than a coyote. Incidents of coyotes attacking humans are extremely rare, almost all associated with animals that have been purposely fed by humans. Worried about your pets? Keep them inside or build good fences.
You're at 3 minutes.
The bottom line, concerns raised about coyotes are being overblown to justify a sporting activity that absolutely does more harm than good. Take it from someone who has been there. We need the coyotes. Believe me, you need that.
Thank you, Ms. Kaufman. Please hand in your written testimony. Next person.
Good morning. My name is Donna Fawn, and I'm a resident of Reno at the Virginia City Highlands. I am here today to give a voice to the obviously voiceless, and that is our wonderful coyotes. I moved to the Highlands upon retirement specifically to be able for the first time in my life to live in a less populated area and be able to enjoy the wildlife that lives there. I moved to Reno with my husband, dog, cat, and dragon lizard. I did my homework because I knew I was moving into a wildlife area, which meant I needed to be more vigilant about my own animals. So my cat stays indoors except for an outside second-story balcony, and my dog is never left outside unattended, ever. So we live safe and happy to know that our presence is not interrupting the natural order of things. And because we are responsible pet owners, we have never even come close to having issues with the coyotes who frequent our property. In fact, we have never had any issues with the wild horses, big cats, or bears that live there also. We don't have children, but I frequently have friends that visit who do have children. From the first visit, the children are told the rules because they are in wildlife country. And because we are vigilant, there have been no issues. The children learn to respect the wildlife and benefit from the experience. When I purchased my property in the Highlands, I had to sign a document saying I knew I was in an open range area. So I had a choice whether to fence my property or not. I chose not and will never regret it. My husband and I enjoy sitting on our balcony and we marvel at the coyotes, wild horses, and other wildlife that pass through. And at night, we sit outside, look at the stars, and the sounds of the coyote howling in the distance invoke a sense of the remote, romantic Old West, nature, and freedom. I believe that coyotes are an intricate part of our ecosystem, and they are necessary predators. For instance, I have bunnies and assortments of rodents and small animals that live on my property. So far, they're a joy to watch, but they might be a problem if their numbers were to rise due to lack of coyotes and other predators. The thing is, I believe, as do many, that we need to keep the balance of nature, not man intended. I believe we and the coyotes can and must coexist for the survival of all. Now, the people in favor of the slaughter would have you believe they're doing us all a public service, but I don't think. I think the reason is just for them to fulfill their bloodlust. After they kill off the coyotes, then they'll probably want to have bunny hunting and squirrel hunting contests too.
30 seconds.
But I believe if we are responsible pet owners, vigilant parents, there is no need for this inhumane and disgusting spectacle. Don't blame nature for doing what nature does, and that's survive. In closing, I would like to say that this board has an opportunity today to set us as a community on a new path of understanding and reverence for nature. I respectfully ask that you do not allow this contest of death to take place. Do what is best for all, including the coyotes. Don't let the bloodlust of a few or the ignorance of many make your decision for you. Please be compassionate and informed. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and please take my comments into consideration. Thank you.
Ma'am, you
Yes.
Good morning, Commissioners, Chairman Drew. Thank you very much for this hearing. I am Trish Swain, and I speak as the Director of Trail Safe Nevada, so I will run over 3 minutes here because I have a number of notes. Our mission is the humane treatment of animals, both companion animals and wildlife. That is our mission. Those who think that they have psychic powers and think that we have some secret agenda are mistaken. We are not here with any secret agenda about hunting or fishing, and I've said that so many times before this body. What we are here about is support of the petition as it was presented. And of course, what we have to look at, and others have mentioned this, is the intent of the California action, which was all that I think most of the people who emailed you had in mind. The intent is to do something to stop these coyote hunts as mass slaughter, and that is the entire intent. So it is not the intent of most of these writers, in my opinion, to copy the California law line by line. Certainly not. We want our own style for Nevada that works best for Nevada. A scapegoat is an event, person, or object which is blamed for all that goes wrong, whether this blame is justified or not. This will usually carry on until the scapegoat has gone or has managed to successfully defend itself against the arguments presented to it. I will present arguments for the coyote, who is today's scapegoat. No animal is a varmint. Each has intrinsic value. It is irrational to assume an animal is evil or bad just because it is an effective predator. In fact, much of the data implicates dogs in evil doing. Per a 2011 Department of Agriculture report, dogs kill more cattle than cougars, lynx, and most other predators. Why do we love and protect our dogs, and why is there such widespread contempt for the dog's resourceful, intelligent, wild cousin? It just doesn't make sense. And as a note here, I just want to add that guard dogs are obviously an effective means of protecting herds. Only 2 coyote-human confrontations resulting in bites were reported in Nevada in the past 20 years. Meanwhile, in Las Vegas, in 1 year, 2009 to 2010, there were 122 Chihuahua bites. Do we take revenge on our little sweater-wearing friends? Efforts to paint the coyote as a vicious monster like something out of Jurassic Park are exaggerated. Is Chicago still inhabited? Manhattan? San Francisco? We know coyotes now inhabit these cities. Trail-safe hears from ranchers and folks living in rural areas who see coyotes all the time, but coexist peacefully. Of course, coyotes provide free organic rodent control, thereby preventing disease. I spent many years hiking and camping, usually alone with dog or dogs, in much of this state. I have my collection of coyote encounter stories, which are magic and sacred to me, which I only share, I very, very rarely share. I haven't shared them all, because they are very precious moments in my memory. I have been within inches of coyotes on a few occasions. Nothing even slightly aggressive befell me or my dogs, who ranged over the years from a 45-pound Beagle Basset Cross to an 85-pound Chesapeake Bay Retriever who was never messed with. From a Southern California study, 48 attacks on children and adults were verified in the years from 1998 to 2003, which is a 5-year period. Most of these incidents were in the suburban wildland interface. This averages to about 8 incidents a year. Certainly any incident is regrettable, and we don't know how these incidents come about. But no, the coyotes are lagging way behind the Chihuahuas. And in Seal Beach, officials are now trying to find a way to live alongside the coyotes. The public was turned off by lethal predator control that had been employed in Southern California. So now Seal Beach is drafting a regional coyote management plan in cooperation with the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals and nearby cities, including Cypress, Los Alamitos, Garden Grove, and Long Beach. The goal is coexistence, enforcement of laws prohibiting the feeding of wildlife, and development of a system for determining the proper response to encounters with coyotes. Our own Nevada Department of Wildlife has these common sense hints on their website. Mass coyote killings don't eliminate the animals, as you've heard many times today. The rebound effect is well known to biologists. More coyotes show up to fill vacancies, birth rates increase, and other coyotes migrate to the area. Coyote hunt contests frequently involve families. This is very troubling to me as a retired educator. Children are being taught to regard some animals as worthless and to consider killing as a solution to conflicts. Our public lands and the wildlife that by law belong to all of us are being exploited. And here I want to mention to you that coyotes appear on the fur bearer sheets kept by the Department of Wildlife, because when they are killed for the purpose of selling their pelts, they are indeed classified as fur bearers by the Department of Wildlife. So I think that merits
45 seconds.
further attention. Okay, I'm almost done. Contest hunts are not wildlife management, you've heard that. And if you look into the hunt book put out by the Department of Wildlife, you will see outlines of ethical hunting. And though their regulations certainly support ethical hunting. Killing animals without an adequate reason is unjustified and unsportsmanlike. Killing an animal for a prize or trophy constitutes killing without an adequate reason. For these that I had time to list for you, and so many more reasons, please ban coyote contest hunts in Nevada. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Before we get to the next person, I've got some commissioners that are getting very dirty, and they don't want to excuse themselves in this public comment. So I'm going to take a little bit of a break here. It's 11:06. We'll come back at 11:20. Remember where you're at in line. We'll get you all. But let's take a break.
Thanks.
We are, sure.
Yeah.